Hey, it's the right weekend, and listen. Well, you're going to see what I'm from the title what I'm talking about, but it's funny that the Democrats like to talk about misinformation and disinformation, but meanwhile, they spew stuff like what I'm about to play for you. Let me get. I'm just going to go straight to the clip, and then I'll discuss afterwards. But I want you guys to hear this because this is ridiculous.
Putin also understands the opportunity of having a Republican, giving the Republicans ammunition to topple the American government this November. And I don't say that lightly. If the Republicans win power this November, that's it. The American experiment is over. It is the basis for autocracy. They'll follow through with their threat to make Trump Speaker of the House and use that as a springboard to make him president, and then there will never be another free or fair election in the United States. Putin understands that. By giving Biden this crisis, he gets the Republicans like Tucker Carlson and all of these other people who is acting as a propagandist for Putin.
So they love to talk, like I said, they love to talk about disinformation and misinformation. But here you got this guy, Malcom Nance, who goes on shows. This was on XM satellite radio, spewing this nonsense. First, in order for Trump to be elected Speaker of the House, he'd have to run for a House seat. That's one. So there's they talk about the crazy conspiracy theories on the right, but you hear this one on the left, and you're like, really? And this guy's a MSNBC contributor. I remember seeing this guy when he got owned by Ben Shapiro. And look, listen. This is so disgusting because you don't see me calling for let's say calling for this guy's censorship. You don't hear me calling for him to be deplatformed. You're not gonna see no one on the right do that. I rather go on here and go, look at this clown. That's what I'm gonna call him. He's a clown. He's there fear mongering to a certain portion of the left that will believe this, that will believe that if you if you don't believe what he believes, they do this all the time. If you don't vote for Democrats, it's the end of the republic. But meanwhile, these people are trying to end the filibuster. These people are trying to get rid of the Second Amendment. These people are trying to end free speech, because these are the same people who, let's say, for example, they'll go, you have Democrat politicians that lobby to lobby for more censorship, or, they'll threaten going, if Facebook and Twitter and all these platforms, if they don't do what they say, then they threaten them either with legislation, or they're going to threaten them with subpoena and all this stuff. And this is how they get these companies to fall in line. But it's more than that too, is because for the most part, these companies, they believe this. It's not just that they're falling in line; it's their believers. They want, one party rule. They want, because that's their party. They are Democrats. They're not. There's no mixture of political philosophies at Facebook and Twitter. It's all either liberals or leftists, and not, old school liberals. We're talking about these new liberals that, like, Neil Young used to preach the song about. He did a tour in free speech, and here he's pushing for Spotify to censor Joe Rogan, to take away his free speech. Like I said, I'm not calling for Malcolm Nance deplatforming or getting rid of him or something. I'd rather counter it and go, look, listen, for what is it? For his entire presidency, and even now, there's still this BS about Russia and him being a puppet of Putin. But meanwhile, if he was a puppet of Putin, why didn't Putin do this while Trump was in office? Why didn't he do these saber rattling issues then? No. Why is he doing it now? Why is China doing this stuff now? Because they smell weakness. They're laughing at us. When they see stuff like this, they're laughing at us. When they see stuff that we're talking about, pregnant men, and that men could have periods and all this kind of nonsense, they're laughing at us. China passed a law banning effeminate men from television. Now, not calling for that stuff here. I'm just pointing it out as an example. They're looking at this and they laugh at this woke nonsense. Because this, saying that Republicans are going to want an autocracy, when these people, when they lose the Supreme Court, they push for Supreme Court packing. They don't like the secure elections that Republicans are pushing for, and they call that voter suppression. We, and I say that as a person of color, they lie to us, they gaslight us, they feed us stuff like this, so we're fearful, and we go and vote what, they always tell us, oh, vote your best interest. Voting Democrat now is not in your best interest. If you see the high crime, you see the high crimes that are going on in the cities, but meanwhile, George Soros funded district attorneys, they're not enforcing laws. Even the Manhattan DA, he got threatened by the governor, who is also a Democrat, but it's like, no, you can't do this stuff, because the governor has the power to remove a lower elected official, which, so she should just go ahead and remove all those George Soros elected officials, but she won't. That, to me, I think that's an empty threat. I don't think she'll do it. But this is what's going on. This is the fear that they feed us. And this is the fear. Some of them believe it. I'm not saying that this guy doesn't believe the crap he's spouting, but that's what it is. Saying that, still doing the whole Russian nonsense and trying to, link anybody to Russia, to make it, to basically right now, if you want to look at it, the stuff that's going on in Ukraine and the stuff that's going on with China, they don't talk about the key things that's going on. They don't talk about, for example, that Biden has his son has had dealings with Ukraine and China, and you're gonna say there's no influence peddling going on there between Ukraine and Biden and China and Biden? Maybe that's why some of this stuff is going on, because during the election, all the stuff that was in the Hunter Biden's laptop, it wasn't allowed to be disseminated. Even the New York Post Twitter page was suspended. But this is what's going on. Even let's say, for example, the trucker envoy in Canada is going strong. It's like 50,000, but the mainstream news is not covering it. Their prime minister called it a fringe movement. And that's, but And it's not fringe, but the media won't cover it. These truckers, 50,000 people are there. 50,000 truckers are there in Ottawa. Okay. And it's a freezing cold. They're doing a protest in some place, and basically there with like -30 wind chill factor. So it's cold and they're protesting. And we need to support those truck drivers. We need to fight the mandates. I'm vaccinated. So I have my my vax card, but I refuse to go into places in New York that will show it, that I have to show it because I think it's stupid. I don't think I should have to show it. And I had COVID. So not only am I vaccinated, not only did I catch it, but I'm recovered from it. So I have antibodies in me. So, but this guy is allowed to go on TV, or in this case, satellite radio, and spew this nonsense. But, let's say Joe Rogan needs to be kicked off a platform for having one guest that the left didn't like. Because I'm reminded of a couple quotes from 1984 that I want to share with everything that's going on with this guy with okay, so this is one that goes, because with all the stuff they're trying to end misinformation and blah blah blah, and they're calling it misinformation and disinformation. Meanwhile, that's what they did for, that's what they do all the time themselves. But it goes here. But if thought corrupts language, language can also corrupt thought. And that reminds me of that quote and this quote. It's a beautiful thing, the destruction of words. Because he could dare and go saying that if Republicans win, it's it's the end of the American experiment. That's what he said. Let me just go back to his go back to the quote. It says here, he said, if Republicans win power this November, that's it. The American experiment is over. And that's the hyperbole, that's the like I said, the destruction of words saying there, because it's just saying that, saying that the American experiment's over just because Democrats didn't win. It's a power play. That's all it is. And that's where this is going. The Democrats want to use their power. I mean, everybody wants to use power for something, but right now, with the way they're destroying the language, using different words, making up these pronouns, what else? Not just the making up the pronouns, confusing the kids with this gender theory nonsense, changing the definition of racism, which I'm going to go into more depth tomorrow, hopefully with a guest. But this is the stuff that's going on, and it doesn't need to be censored. It needs to be fought. And I'm not talking about physically. I'm talking about exactly what I'm doing right now, fighting this guy's nonsense. It's just a way of stoking fear to get control, to gain power. That's it. That's all it is. And it's not about being hopeful. It's just about stoking that fear to get us to submit to them. And you can't comply your way out of tyranny. So Anyways, I'm the Right Rican. Follow me on YouTube and Rumble. If you follow me on one, please, if you can, follow me on both. If you only are using YouTube, I suggest you find other platforms to follow the people that you like, because a lot of people like myself, we're not long for that channel, or for that for YouTube, because eventually I'm going to say something that I don't think should be have me banned or give me a strike, but that's what's going to happen. They could go back on my old channels. Look how many things that look how many misinformation was given during the pandemic, and how many conspiracy theories were true. Stuff that they fact check false, that's now fact check true. So I mean, like with this guy talking about Russia, Russia, Russia. Meanwhile, whose candidate is compromised by our, about our two greatest adversaries in China and Russia? Who's compromised more? But that's not something that's why people have lost faith in the mainstream media and go on podcasts and alternative media to get information, to get real information. And that's what's going on. And the media is in a mad scramble to fight for viewership, to fight for ratings. That's why they hate Fox News. At the end of the day, Fox News is the only mainstream news channel that doesn't agree with everything that they talk about. That's why they try to get them censored too. Imagine if we didn't have the internet, we didn't have Fox News to be let's say, to be contrary and to give us the different side of things. Anyways, like I said, I'm gonna leave it there. You can also, like I said, you can interact with me social media, Facebook, Twitter, Gab, Telegram, and like I said, follow me on YouTube and Rumble. And that being said, we'll go whenever.